There are truths carried in the silences of underhive warrens, in the abandoned frontier stations where no Arbites patrol, and in the dead records of Administratum sub-archives that were never meant to see light again. One such truth is this: the Imperium has always relied on those who hunt men for coin. Bounty hunters, manhunters, seekers of flesh and reputation, they are as old as the Imperium itself, though their names shift like ash in the winds of a hive spire. The earliest mention of licensed hunters comes from the wild centuries following the Great Crusade, when the Imperium stretched faster than its capacity to govern. Rogue traders pressed into lawmaking carried with them charters allowing bonded mercenaries to apprehend fugitives, mutants, and renegades. These were neither soldiers nor sanctioned inquisitorial acolytes. They were freelancers, some raised from feral gangs, others dispossessed guard veterans. Their existence filled the void where the Adeptus Arbites could not yet set their grip. Necromunda's own guild records tell of entire brotherhoods of hunters, their oaths tied not to creed, but to contracts, their reputations carved through the slagged bones of outlaw gangs and heretics. Cal Jericho, famed duelist and rogue, stands as the most storied example, a hunter who walked the line between hired killer, reluctant hero, and self-styled free spirit. Jericho was imperial by blood, yet moved with the grace of one who owed loyalty to no master, only to the weight of the bounty writ. Tales of his hunts show the strange freedom enjoyed by such figures, yet also the endless peril. They lived on reputation, and when that failed, so did their life. The Imperium's tolerance for the breed is paradoxical. On Shrine Worlds, licensed hunters are sanctified as extensions of the Emperor's judgment, their contracts blessed by the Ministorum itself. In Hive depths, the same profession festers in corruption, where mutant trackers, sanctioned abhumans, and even Xeno's mercenaries are employed by guilds and noble houses. Records from Necromunda's Guild of Coin reveal entire circuits where hunters compete for prestige, each kill ratified by scribes before payouts are made. The paradox resolves into inevitability. The Imperium is too vast to govern without them. Lore also speaks of hunters drawn into the orbits of inquisitors. Eisenhorn himself at times consorted with blades for hire, men and women who could step where even his acolytes could not. Their lives show the porous line between outlaw and tool of the throne. The Inquisition understood a truth others denied. When facing mutants, rogue psychers, and heretical cells, it was often those accustomed to shadow wars who could root them out. Some hunters specialize in the capture of abominations, the term manhunter at times misleading, for the quarry might be Genestealer hybrids hiding in Manufactoria, escaped demon hosts that slipped chains, or deserter generals who commanded entire armies. In such work, the bounty is measured not only in coin, but in status. Few survive long, for every contract adds names to the list of enemies who will not forgive. Why does the Imperium, a realm ruled by dogma and hierarchy, permit such anarchic figures to exist at all? The answer lies in scale. 1,000,000 worlds cannot be policed by Arbites alone. Hunters fill the interstices of imperial control, tolerated because they perform the work that ordered forces cannot reach. They embody the Imperium's reliance on pragmatism, even amidst its rhetoric of purity. There is another reflection to consider. Hunters live as proof that, within the most rigid empire of mankind's history, freedom exists in narrow slivers. Their freedom is violent, precarious, and fleeting, but it is a freedom nonetheless. For some, like Cal Jericho, that freedom becomes legend. For most, it ends nameless, their corpses stacked with those they once pursued. From a wider view, bounty hunters also mirror the Imperium's obsession with transaction. Life and death themselves are tallied, bought, and sold across guild ledgers. This commodification of justice underscores the grim truth. In the far future, judgment itself can be bartered. The story of the bounty hunter is never one of open battlefields. Their tale is written in the collapsed corridors of hive undercities, in the sand-blown ruins of frontier moons, and across the fractured silence of void stations where no imperial warship would deign to halt. In these liminal zones, lore is shaped by coin, and the hunter's reputation is the sole currency that ensures survival. Necromunda offers the clearest vision of such a world. Deep beneath its hive spires, where the light of the Emperor's shrines dwindles into ember glow, hunters walk between gangs, guilds, and hidden cults. Some are attached to noble houses, serving as enforcers and assassins. Others are wild independents, carrying only their name, their weapons, and their ledger of kills. Contracts range from the banal to the extraordinary, recapturing deserters from hive militia, retrieving guilders' stolen property, or tracking down chaos-tainted mutants before they can spread infection through sump warrens. The Necromunda guilds institutionalized bounty hunting, transforming what might otherwise be outlaw work into sanctioned commerce. The Guild of Coin and the Guild of Law issue contracts with precise codices, the worth of a renegade psyker, the value of an escaped guild servitor, even the scale of payment for a Xenos hybrid brought in alive for dissection. Each record is sealed in ink and blood, a bureaucratic machine grafted upon the primal act of the hunt. Within this framework, men like Cal Jericho operated, their names becoming both legend and liability, each bounty won earning equal measures of wealth and enemies. Yet the Imperium is far too vast for the hive model to be its only face. On frontier worlds, bounty hunters adopt the guise of scouts, trappers, or pathfinders. In the cold wastes of Armageddon during the Great Wars against Gazkul, hunters were known to track orc war bosses across ash dunes, serving guard regiments in exchange for coin and salvage rights. On shrine worlds, ecclesiarchy officials contracted hunters to pursue apostates who fled into wastelands, granting them writs of absolution for acts of sanctioned violence. In void space, rogue traders frequently kept entire retinues of hunters, not only to capture debtors, but also to retrieve rare xeno specimens for forbidden study. The breadth of the hunter's quarry reveals much about the Imperium's contradictions. Contracts might demand the return of a noble scion who fled his arranged marriage, the termination of an entire gang whose violence threatened tithes, or the capture of a feral abhuman whose body was destined for servitor labor. In some cases, the bounties were themselves former servants of the Emperor, soldiers broken by war, priests undone by whispers of heresy, or psykers who failed the judgment of the Black Ships. Each became quarry, their worth measured not by who they were, but by the price their heads commanded. Hunters also navigate dangerous intersections with the Inquisition. While inquisitors possess near absolute authority, many rely on hunters to chase quarry too small, too hidden, or too politically tangled for their own agents. Gregor Eisenhorn, during his early career, employed such figures to track rogue psykers and traffickers in heretical texts. In those cases, the hunter's work was stained with secrecy, their names expunged when contracts were fulfilled. To serve an inquisitor was to enter a shadow where coin mattered less than silence, and where the hunter's life was expendable the moment the work was done. What emerges across hive and frontier is not a single archetype, but a spectrum. At one end, the state-sanctioned manhunter, his contracts inscribed in guild ledger and backed by planetary law. At the other, the outlaw hunter, tolerated because he kills those the Imperium cannot reach, yet forever one misstep away from being branded heretic or renegade. Between them lies the mercenaries' paradox, celebrated when useful, erased when inconvenient. It is worth considering whether bounty hunting represents the Imperium's most honest reflection of itself. A million worlds proclaim devotion to the throne, yet every world has those who betray their oaths. Someone must track them down. The administratum cannot. The Arbites will not. The guard cannot be spared. And so the Imperium outsources its dirty work to the very kind of men and women it professes to despise. Hunters are tolerated because they remind the Imperium of a truth it dares not speak. Survival often requires compromise. Do these hunters believe themselves free? Some would say yes. They live beyond the chain of command, take coin from rival guilds, and choose their prey. Yet their freedom is narrower than it seems. They are bound by the market of death, by the contracts of others, by the enemies they accrue with every successful kill. Their lives are short, their legends fragile, and their graves seldom marked. And yet, their presence lingers. Every hive whispers their names in taverns and market stalls. Every frontier remembers the hunter who brought down a warlord. They live on not through monuments, but through rumour. And in a galaxy of endless war, rumour may be the only immortality available to mortals. There are worlds where the hunt is measured in gold thrones or guild scrip. There are others where the prize is something far darker, where a life is paid for not in coin, but in the currency of absolution. On shrine worlds, ministerial authorities have long issued sanctified contracts, declaring that the slaying of heretics or apostates may cleanse the sins of the killer. A hunter, by such a writ, does not simply bring in a fugitive. He demonstrates piety through violence, a brutal theology that has seen entire cults uprooted by packs of sanctioned killers carrying rosaries tied to their bolt pistols. The cult of the God Emperor thrives on martyrdom, but it also thrives on punishment. When an ecclesiastical priest commands that a blasphemer be dragged to the altar steps in chains, it is often hunters who obey. Their reward may be coin, but just as often it is absolution from crimes of their own. Many hunters in shrine systems are themselves penitents, deserters, thieves, or oath-breakers who purchase survival by taking the lives of others. Here, blood coin becomes damnation's tithe, each contract both a reprieve and a further fall into the labyrinth of sanctioned murder. The Inquisition refines this bargain to an art. Bounty hunters in its employ tread lines few others dare. They are tasked to bring back rogue psychers alive so they may face sanction aboard the black ships, or to silence those who have seen too much of the warp. Within Eisenhorn's dossiers, we glimpse hunters used like disposable scalpels, expendable, deniable, vital. Ravener, too, in his campaigns against heretic cults, relied on mercenaries who could vanish without a record once their task was complete. The Inquisition does not reward with coin alone. It offers the chance to remain unnoticed by the very machine that could otherwise grind such freelancers into ash. Not all hunters serve the throne, many fall. The corruption of chaos twists the trade into something more vile. In the Eye of Terror, warbands of renegades employ their own hunters, seeking slaves for sacrifice or psychers for possession. There are whispered tales of hunters who once bore the sigils of the Imperium, but took contracts from cults instead, turning their guns on arbites, priests, even fellow hunters. Such apostates live briefly, for the Imperium hunts them with a zeal unmatched. Yet in that brief span, they sow havoc, for they carry Imperial skills into the service of the warp. There are also Xenos hunters. Among the Kroot, mercenary kindreds sell their services as trackers, their genetic memories guiding them to prey across ash wastes and jungle tombs. Eldar corsairs occasionally act as bounty takers, though their contracts are steeped in mysteries beyond mortal comprehension. They capture a target not for coin, but because a seer declared it must be so. Even the orcs parody the profession. In the wastes of Armageddon, certain freebooters styled themselves head takers, collecting trophies in crude mockery of human bounty ledgers. In every variation, the theme repeats. The hunt is both permitted and condemned, necessary yet despised. Hunters move through the cracks of imperial order, doing the work no one else will confess to needing. Some are remembered as necessary evils, others are forgotten, their skulls just another pile in a shrine's ossuary. A few, like Jericho, walk the razor's edge between scoundrel and hero, celebrated in story while damned in law. The paradox of bounty hunting within the Imperium is not simply its tolerance but its sanctification. Why should a regime so obsessed with order, purity and hierarchy allow such a mercenary breed to flourish? The answer lies in the psychology of faith. The Imperium does not only wage war on the battlefield, it wages war on the soul, demanding that every heresy be pursued, every apostasy answered. Hunters embody this relentless pursuit in microcosm. They are the Emperor's judgment reduced to a man with a gun and a ledger. At the same time, their profession corrodes those who embrace it. To live by blood coin is to accept a constant barter with damnation. Many begin their careers believing they serve justice. Most end them hunted themselves. by arbites for overreach, by rivals for revenge, or by inquisitors who decide their silence is worth more than their service. The Imperium tolerates hunters because it needs them. It destroys them because it cannot afford their independence. Here lies a truth perhaps most telling. Bounty hunters in the 41st millennium are both instruments and warnings. They prove that even within the most rigid theocracy, there is a recognition that survival demands pragmatism. Yet they also prove that freedom, when bought with blood, is a poisoned gift. There is a sound carried across the Imperium that few can mistake. The stamping of guard boots, the hymnal roar of ministorum choirs, the vox bark of commissars, all these speak of order. Yet another rhythm haunts the shadow places of humanity. The soft click of a weapon being primed in the dark, the exchange of coin upon blood-stained parchment, the silence before a door is forced. This is the pulse of the bounty hunter's life, and though the Imperium pretends to bury it, the beat endures. Hunters leave few monuments. They are not remembered in granite statues, nor do their names echo in the catechisms of the ecclesiarchy. Their legacy lies instead in stories whispered in underhives, in the guild ledgers where their contracts are tabulated, and in the fearful respect their names command long after their bones are dust. Cal Jericho remains the most celebrated example, his hunts told and retold not because he embodied loyalty to the throne, but because he embodied survival within a world that sought to devour him. His legend persists because it reveals something most Imperials secretly admire: cunning, daring, and the ability to turn a stacked deck. Others left quieter marks. The hunters who served inquisitors like Eisenhorn or Ravenor vanished from the record, yet their influence shaped the fate of worlds. Without their intervention, cults might have spread further, psychers might have escaped sanction, heretic cells might have multiplied. They carried no banners, but their actions ripple through history like unseen tides. Their absence from imperial record-keeping is itself a kind of memorial, silence as testament. The eternal ledger of bounty hunters is also a philosophical one. Every contract raises questions about justice, faith, and survival. What is the value of a life when it can be bought? Is justice served when a heretic dies at the hands of a paid killer rather than a sanctioned arbite? Does the Emperor's light shine on a mutant dragged to the altar steps by a penitent hunter? Or is that light dimmed by the transaction that brought him there? The Imperium never answers. It has no need to. The act itself, capture or kill, fulfills its demand, and questions are left to fester in silence. Hunters also embody the Imperium's most enduring truth. There is no peace, no respite, no end to the need for blood. As long as heresy festers, as long as deserters flee their regiments, as long as Xenos walk hidden among men, there will be bounties. And as long as there are bounties, there will be hunters. Their tools may change. Stub pistols replaced by needle rifles, data ledgers replaced by cogitator codes. But the essence remains constant. A name, a price, and a gun. Yet in this constancy lies their tragedy. Few die wealthy. Fewer die free. The eternal ledger always balances, and the hunter who claims 1,000 bounties will one day find his own name inscribed in crimson ink, his life priced by another hand. It may be a rival hunter, it may be an arbite's sanction, it may be an inquisitor tying off loose ends. The only certainty is that the hunt comes for all, even the hunter. Still, there is meaning in their path. Hunters represent the Imperium's refusal to leave anything unpursued. No fugitive is too small, no mutant too hidden, no traitor too obscure. Someone will always come. That inevitability is the true legacy of the hunter's path. They are the proof that in the grim darkness of the far future, there is no place beyond reach. The ledger never closes. When one contemplates bounty hunters, one sees a paradox sharpened into survival. They are despised yet necessary, free yet shackled by coin, forgotten yet unforgettable in rumor. Their stories endure not in scripture, but in the memories of those who feared them, hired them, or briefly fought beside them. If the Imperium is a cathedral of endless war, then bounty hunters are the shadows between its pillars, unseen, essential, inescapable. I hold the view that their existence offers a rare human note within the endless machinery of the 41st millennium. They remind us that amidst titans and inquisitors, primarchs and saints, the galaxy still bends upon individuals who live and die by their wits and their guns. They are a fleeting echo of freedom in an age defined by obedience. And when that echo fades, the silence that follows only deepens the vast, grim chorus of the Imperium's eternal war.